turn my audio on. That might help, right? Now you can hear me.
There you are.
Here I am. Good morning. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you today? You noticed I kind of spruced up for you.
I did notice that.
Yeah. Of
Looking
course,
sharp.
you really can't. I mean, it's hard to tell because I got the black,
The
the
black
black.
background behind you. I can
Yes,
tell.
you know.
I can tell.
Yeah,
I
there you
can
go.
tell.
And look at look. I got a new
A
microphone too.
microphone. It's not in the shot on here,
Oh,
so I
it's
can't
not.
see it.
Oh,
But I see it. There we go. There we go.
yeah.
Yeah, we see
Got
it
a new
there. Cool.
microphone.
I know
Look
you
at
got like a
that.
new. Are you in a new area?
Well, no, I'm just kind of upgrading the studio.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, I'm trying to be like you, Ashley. I'm trying to grow up to be like you.
I don't know about all that. I don't know if that's a good
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, yeah. So, hey, we had a great meeting this morning with pastors and community leaders concerning victory over violence and how we're going to address the violence as the body of believers. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I haven't been this excited in a long time. So you're about to
Good.
hear some really cool stuff coming out of this.
Good. I'm excited about that. I'm very
Yeah, me
excited
too.
about that.
Me
So,
too.
again, we are on our Victory Over Violence digital series on fox16.com and KARK.com, as well as our Facebook pages. And today we are talking about addiction and declaring victory over addiction. Because
Correct.
it's often something that, you think it might only impact the one person, but it can impact an entire family.
Yeah, they were talking about that this morning, how right now, especially with fentanyl and meth that are really doing some crazy stuff in our community. They were saying today that there was a lot of stories coming out, but that right now, one of their biggest things that they're having to overcome in the community is a lot of the drug addiction that's happening right now. So I'm hoping we're going to get some tools today from our dear friend.
Yes, so I want to go ahead and let you introduce our guests for today.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, today we've got Miss Sandy, and I hope I'm going to say her name all right. It's a Sandy Swaffar Comier or Comier.
Yes.
Comier.
Okay.
She'll tell us.
Yeah, she'll tell us a
But
bit.
anyway, Sandy's from Morrilton, and so she is well versed in addiction. She's not a professional in addiction, but she is a professional in working with those who are in addictions, and also it has in a personal way, and we're going to hear about those things. So, Miss Sandy.
There we go. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandy.
Hi.
And
thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Let's get a clarification on how we pronounce your last name.
Oh, Swaffar.
Okay.
Cormier.
Got it. Okay.
Now, around Arkansas, we say Cormier, so that's
Cormier. That's a lot easier, actually.
Yes.
All right, so let's just let's introduce you first. Just kind of let people know, if you can, a little bit about your personal story and why addiction is something that's like, or trying to overcome addiction is something that's near and dear to your heart.
Okay, that would begin with myself because I really didn't know anyone in addiction before I experienced being released out of addiction for myself personally. And so that personal journey was one that I didn't wake up and say, hey, I'm just going to start using drugs and get out there and lose touch with my family, my children, and other relationships and job, that kind of thing. It was something that was introduced kind of subtly, and because the drug of what it is, chemical makeup, makes you begins to kind of rule in your mind and your body. So that was not an immediate takeover, but it was through some time of a little here, a little there, and that began to be more and more to the point to where it was a takeover in my mind, because it's what I began to think of. It began to be what my body wanted to get through a day. And so that was some time, probably about 6 years off and on from the time I started until I got free of that.
Wow.
And getting free of that is not so easy. And because your mind is telling your body what it wants, and your body is seeming to only function in the way your body's telling what it needs.
Wow.
Just like we do with food and water.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, so if we're thirsty, we need a drink. If we're hungry, we need some food. And our body tells us that. Our mind tells us that. And so a chemical makeup, and you would just have to search and to see what all medications, pharmaceutical made or street made.
What drug was it that you were addicted to?
What I got involved with was meth.
Okay.
Okay. So let me interrupt just a minute here. So I'm going to ask, if you would, Sandy, can you move just a little? Am I right, Ashlei? Can she move a little bit to get centered?
There we go. Yeah, that works.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you said meth was the. Did it start with meth? I know you said it was like a gradual thing, or did it eventually like increase to that?
Mine started with meth, an introduction to it.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people will start with alcohol and they'll move into something else. Pain pills, that are legal, but it is what it does with the mind and the body, that they get addicted to that. And when there's not enough continuing, the body's not satisfied, the mind's not satisfied, the day's not, can't function on it anymore, then that tends, to add another drug. Mine was meth, and I pretty much, I was involved with some alcohol and marijuana at some time, but that was not what really drew me and kept me in the cycle. So for me, it was the meth.
So was it an individual that said, "Hey, you want to go out and party with me and try this?" Or, was it friends? What? And no names, but was this? When you say you started, because listen, to start with meth, that's a big step to start with meth.
Okay, so let me clarify on that too, because I had began to drink a little bit. I began to use marijuana a little bit. So it wasn't something that with the marijuana and alcohol that was drawing me back to that daily. But what that was it gave the feeling and the mindset with the alcohol, a little bit of buzz, that little bit of feeling that you step into of, that aura, whatever, that you step into. So you already kind of have a little taste or touch of kind of outside of your normal thoughts, outside of your normal where you are, and then you're surrounded with friends, you're surrounded, having a good time going out. And what you're doing is going out to be with friends and get separated from reality of what's going on in your personal life, possibly. So for me, being a single mom, and you're working full time, sometimes 2 jobs, so you get a minute to get out of the house and go do something. You just want to relax, you want to find a different atmosphere. And in that is how, with some friends that I got introduced to, some that then introduced me to, you're out drinking for a while. I was a real lightweight. I didn't, I didn't drink all that much anyway. So when you're out, you're tired, everybody else is still, they are still busy at it. They're still having a good time, and you really want to hang, so somebody says, "Hey, well, have you tried this?" And that's kind of how it gets introduced. Have you tried this? Do you want to try this? And well, what is it? Well, it'll help you stay awake. They don't go into, well, Santa Flush, it's, whatever other chemicals that they put together, to make that street drug. They don't go into all that.
Yeah.
But they say things like, and it's true, it's what it does, well, you'll be able to stay awake longer, you won't feel, like you've can't function or whatever. And so that was the gentle nudge of how I got into using it.
Okay.
And then, so it was just on a weekend. Occasionally I'd be out, but again, I was staying connected with the same group to hang out with.
So Ashlei, I know you heard that. Did you hear what she said? Santa Flush?
Did I hear? Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I put some bad stuff in my body, but I ain't never put no Santa Flush in my body.
Yeah. That is.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. Later that was one of the ingredients in some of what they would mix up. We've gone as far as bath salts now, but you don't know that. You don't see all that when it's presented to you, of course. That's some of the hidden things that happens.
That's so let's fast forward a little bit. How were you able to actually overcome the addiction?
For me, I told myself, because I worked a profession, I had children,
Mm-hmm.
I was with, a group that I was spending time with. I was starting to see, I was becoming aware a little bit of, like, if somebody lost their children, if someone, like, they didn't have any gas money to get somewhere, they lost their job. Little pieces of that was kind of being, I was noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, I began to kind of take a look at myself. I had some personal things at home that was happening, to where I had a child who graduated high school, and he went out into drugs, and he wasn't connecting with us at all, so we didn't know where he was. So that kind of, had my attention, because I was told that he was using drugs. Then I had my younger son, who had left home to live with his dad at a appropriate age, and then I had just my daughter at home, so there was more time to even sit and kind of think on things of where my life is. Things are changing. What am I doing? Where am I going? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started noticing how I was losing time with my children as they were growing, and I was, had the last one at home, and I began thinking about where I was putting my time, what I was doing, who I was with, and just some awareness started happening, and I started questioning some of the things in my life and what I was doing. And so I told myself then, because I put a finger on it, I said, okay, this is what's happening, and this is what needs to change. And which was the drugs, and it was the spending time through the weekend away instead of being with my children
Well,
or
let
my
me
daughter.
Sandy, let me ask you a quick let me ask you a question here. Let me, if I may. Sorry for just interrupt your thought
That's
there, but
okay.
you just said that something had to change, and it was the drugs. But can I maybe get a little, because I know we want to get into your son also, which I love him dearly. But was it deeper than just the drugs? I mean, is that really what needed to change, or did something else need to change in order for you to put the addiction down?
Definitely something else, which I always share and declare, because I found for myself to separate from the lifestyle I was in, and to recognize the lifestyle I was in was because of the spirit that was in me, that was encouraging me and making me aware, was the spirit of the Lord. And it was God, and it was something that I had been taught of, when I was at a younger age, but I had separated from that also. But I feel like, in true honesty, for me, if um, I could have never done it on my own. I believe that it was the spirit of the Lord that began putting things in my place, and helping me to be aware, to help me to recognize things that were being wrecked around me, and changing into where I needed a change in my soul, because my soul was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was wanting to hear, is that because there are people out there that are watching this right now that that they feel unworthy. Now, you and I me, we have our belief systems. We have our faith, but we've got to recognize that there are times in our lives where we feel like we're worthless, that we feel like there is no, quote, anything else out there that is making me feel good except this high that I
Hmm.
would get, or I was getting.
Yeah.
So for those individuals right now that are watching, for you personally, um, when did you find, what was that piercing moment that you recognized, oh my God, my life is spiraling out of control?
Well, the moment I had stayed, after I had evaluated kind of some time, and saw where my monies were going in the past year, when I told myself I was done. It took me a year of doing that, that I wasn't able to still put the stop on it when I said I would. Thought I was in control of myself, and I really wasn't. But the moment that really hit is because, after a year of that, and I was seeing that, I had been with some friends, and I had used the meth, which I said never was again going to happen. And I had used the meth, and of course, with that, time went by. I get home, and sun is up, and I walk into my kitchen, and I just heard in my heart, "Where are your children?" And as I explained, I had one that was already out, and I was told was into drugs and addiction. I had one that was stayed away, that I had no physical connection with anymore. And then I had my daughter, who was just real young, like 9 years old.
Wow.
And all this reflection of almost, like a picture of my life that spanned in the last 10 years just flashed before my eyes with my children, and the separation I was feeling there as they were growing up.
Mm.
And I just heard in my heart, "Where are your children?" And I took that not only as I saw that picture flashing before my eyes of the last few years, but I also took that inside in my soul, and with what I knew with a relationship I had had with the Lord when I was younger, and what I had been taught with right and wrong. And that just kind of all just started swirling in me. And that was where I heard, "Where are your children?" Because I had the opportunity when I was young to be taught about a God, about someone that loved me, that I could hope in, that I could have, a relationship with, that would guide me in this path of life. And all that, my children had not even been taught that. I had not even given them that opportunity. And that moment dropped me to my knees.
Wow.
Ugh.
Surrender.
Wow.
Wow.
So you as a mother, you've gone through this yourself, you overcame it, and now you're seeing your son kind of following in the same path. Is that kind of what happened?
Yes. And where I thought I had it all hidden from the children,
Mm.
and maybe to some degree I did, but they still were exposed to it,
Mm-hmm.
chose it, and
Yeah.
was living it before I even knew that, that came from a friend who gave me the
Mm.
information that then I had to deal with and try to process through. I've
Mm-hmm.
got a child out in addiction,
Mm.
unable to function, unable to work a job, going house to house.
Yeah. So how did you help your son overcome this as well?
I wasn't able to in the beginning. I had
Mm-hmm.
to process and go through process of getting myself clean, and my mindset changed,
Mm-hmm.
and my lifestyle changed. But as I did that for myself with the process that I went through with surrendering to the Lord, getting
Mm-hmm.
in the Word, getting that relationship built,
Yeah.
I found in the Word of God, I found hope. I found truth, because it proves itself over and over if you'll dig in there enough. I also found the strength then to continue for myself and the child I had at home. And in that, I found empowerment. I found empowerment because in the Word it tells us who we are, that we are a child of God. We are not a pile of clay and worthless laying on the ground. And that took a little time to accept, because I felt worthless. I felt almost hopeless with my children that were already outside of the home. But I also found promises. And in the truth and the promises of the Word of God, I learned who I was as a child of God. Um, he is a supernatural being, and He says He gives, us all that He is, and we are created in His image. So how are we not, in some degree, when we accept that and believe that? How are we not, some in ways, a supernatural being, to believe and to trust that and to operate in that?
So let me get a little. I'm the one that goes deep. Um, so you find out that your son is in addiction. Okay.
Yes.
Of course, you and I both, we would begin praying. Either way, all of us would begin praying for that situation. But what was that moment that you really heard somebody come to you and says, "Sandy, your son is doing drugs over here and he's all strung out and so forth"? What was that first thought that came through your head?
Probably the first thought was not believing it at first. Just didn't want to believe that. But then the other thought is, where is he? What drug is he using? How do I help him?
Okay, so you had those thoughts. How did you begin, besides praying, how did you begin acting on those thoughts?
In attempts of connecting with him, for one. I mean, I had to find him and find out where he was. I had to try to connect with him, to let him know I'm here. I'm here. I love you. I want to help you. And but and at that time too, when I found out he was in addiction, I was still using
Mm.
occasionally. I had definitely come away from it a lot, but I hadn't made that complete severance with it
Okay, did you ever blame yourself?
for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And that
How
was the
did
thing.
you
I want to find him.
okay, how did you overcome blaming yourself?
That was probably one of the hardest things, because every time I would think about him, or I'm wondering about him, and I'm not able to make connection, I'm not able to fix him, always the guilt sat right here, and the shame sat over here.
Mm.
And it took through some years of, again, like I said, I got into the Word. I found a church to start going to, and I started,
Relationships.
yes, and building some relationships of support that was positive
Mm-hmm.
words, positive, people, that seem to care about you. They, seem to care about what's going on in your life. And, what do you do? What's your family like? Well, you don't just say, well, I got a kid out there, I have no idea where he is. I hear he's all strung out all the time and he's home to home. That's not the thing that you want to say about your children.
Yeah.
And so that's where your shame would hit, and you're trying to close it off and keep the door shut on that with other relationships. So you can't even have true open relationships with some, because you're so scarred with guilt and shame.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow. So now you yourself, you're helping other people there in the Morrilton area.
Yes,
So can you talk a
I
little bit
grew
about
up.
what you do?
Yes, I grew up in Morrilton,
Okay.
um, and so one of the realizations, like after in my journey of like getting clean and
Mm-hmm.
trying to find places to connect to where I could like feel something different than where I'd been, some other places where I'd been. And because of my upbringing, and I'm grateful for that, I began to look for a church. I began to look for um, that atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
of positive. And, I couldn't even talk with people I worked with because, you're not supposed to be doing this. And so, again, that was another wall of shame and guilt that I couldn't get through. But then when I did find a church, and I started just pouring time in there, I've got off the question.
No, just
So
about
it's
your
honest.
yeah, how you
In
help people now.
Wilton, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things too that was really hard out of guilt and shame was to find a church that would accept me.
Mm.
And
Oh.
that's sad, but this was 20 years ago, and you know, you're just not. I just wasn't accepted to
Yeah.
go back into where I had been. And even though they're loving people and all, but you cross this line, well, we don't get that, so
Mm-hmm.
we just don't know how to handle that, I guess, or deal with that.
Yeah. So do
So
you help people now as well?
now, and
Mm-hmm.
because of that, children, multiple children,
Mm.
the church, was trying to even find a group to be accepted in. So when I started paying attention after being clean, you recognize those where you've been, you recognize that group, and of people, or those actions that maybe actions that they may do, or how they their discussion. And so my passion in my heart began to be to help single moms. And because being single can help kind of push you into areas you may not would have chosen, and I feel like that was part of mine, just the consuming pressure of children and trying to survive and all that thing. I looked for a little way out of that, and that's how I ended up going that path. So my passion began with single moms, and I began doing something on a weekend night, and trying to find a place to afford to be able to do something like that. It was, that was not easy,
Mm-hmm.
but I started there. Then I started going on mission trips, and I've been global with that, just taking opportunities. And that was part of my my surrender with the Lord, was I was going to give every opportunity in my life, because I felt like that was important for everyone else. If I made it through and the Lord brought me through this, I was going to give the rest of my life to try to help others, because I knew the difficulty. I knew the struggle in many areas.
So relationships were critical in helping those in Morrilton to find a way out. You know, a lot of times like AA, NA, and those places, a lot of those organizations are built on developing relationships. And
Yes.
so one of the things that you feel as far as a tool, if an individual were dealing with drugs right now, is to find some place where they can get involved in positive relationships. They're going to love them through their situation. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
So,
I did that just kind of in my workplace. I did that as I would meet somebody in Walmart, and you just might maybe kind of start talking or something. And I did that in the church when we had somebody new come in the Sunday school class. You know, I would share my personal journey sometimes, and then someone else in there that was sitting in guilt and shame with the doors closed then would open up a little bit. And
what so let me ask this. So earlier Ashley was saying, so we fast forward as far as your son. Do did you give up on your son?
never.
Okay.
I don't see a
So you
mother
did. Yeah, so
ever give up.
you didn't give up on him, because a lot of the families that I work with, especially here at the center, a lot of families just say, you know, I am so done. I am fine. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I just can't keep doing it. What drove you, besides, again, I'm going to say besides prayer, because we all know that, man, that we got to have that. But what was that step that you said, hey, I'm not going to give up on my son? I mean, what drove you to that?
Well, part of that was what I learned in the Word, in the Scripture, that I learned promises, and I learned to receive those, and I saw it for myself. It happened for me, where I saw other people that continued to choose that same lifestyle, whether it was a conscious or a subconscious choice. They were choosing that lifestyle, and I kept seeing them fall and break. But I chose to for my children, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not, I mean, some people are in a place in addiction that they don't think consciously.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I had some conscious, left in my mind and my heart to choose my children. And and my son that we're talking about, he ended up doing prison time. And when he came out, I just thought, oh, it's all done, it's over. He's been clean for 7 years now. It's, he'll never go back to that, because he sees the consequences. But he did.
Mm-hmm.
He
Wow.
did. And so it's not just because they go to prison, they come home and it's all over. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's still in the mind. And then it's still here when they get here.
Yeah. Has he overcome it now, or?
He has. Thank
Okay.
the Lord. Thank
Mm-hmm.
the Lord. Yes,
Yes.
he has.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then I had the second son that did the same thing.
Mm.
Even though they see what consequences can be there,
Yeah.
but there's still, once they connect with the drug, then there's the great possibility that it could take years for them to be free of it. And it's also, to me, it doesn't have to take years. When we find out truth about how powerful the Word of God is, and that we can receive that and we can be who it says we are, and we have support that helps encourage us too. That's what the body of Christ is. We want to see them do, is to encourage those that are struggling in whatever area. But even in addiction, it's such a depth um, of a cycle, and it can be just cycles.
Mm-hmm.
But they need us to encourage them and to know that they're going to fall. It's going to happen. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just not always an overnight thing. It's not
Yeah.
always just in that moment.
What
But
advice do you have for, so you said were able to know things around me are not going right. But a lot of times when people are addicted to drugs, they don't realize that. So what advice do you have for, another family member who's dealing with a family member who's addicted, and they don't have that, mindset that things are crashing and burning around me, I need to make a change?
well, you cannot change their mind.
Mm.
You can't make them think the way you want them to think. You know, that the thing is to have a love and a passion for people, no matter, and you know, people that are not loving themselves, or they're not going to love you either, even your children.
Wow.
If they are in the addiction enough, they're not going to be conscious enough to know that this is my mom that I honor, you know, because whatever, they are in their own little world. It takes enough love, forever love, to continue to try to connect with them. You can't talk them out of it. You can't talk to anyone. You can't talk to a drunk and have a conversation, right? You know, they've got to be sober. And if they're not sober minded, they're not going to get anything you're saying. And if their body is wanting this, what they feel like is what they need to function, then that's what they're going to be trying to go for. And so that's going to be their priority. And to get into, to try to help someone is to help them when they're crashed, when they've come to a point, and you know that they don't have the money, or they've been without for a day or two. To the most sober time that you can find with them. I mean, if you know them very well, you know when they're high, and you know when they're without. And that's the better time to try to, you know, hey, I'm here, you know, I love you, why don't you just, you know, come and have a meal with us, you know, just try to stay connected so that they know that you're aware of their cycle as well.
You know, Ashley, we've gone over, haven't we?
We can keep going. It's fine.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, this is cool. So, this Sandy, if for the individual right now that's watching, you know, you said a while ago, choice. We always tell the guys when they come over, and the girls when they come over here, you have a choice.
Yes.
You have a choice to live. You have a choice to die. I choose life. I choose life. You have a choice to use a gun. You have a choice to use your words.
Yes.
We have these choices. So there's a mom right now who's watching, and her child is addicted. What in just in as few words, but what do you say to that mom to help her child?
Choose, choose forgiveness. Forgive yourself if you feel like that you have guilt, any part of their lifestyle. Start with yourself and forgive yourself, and forgive them every time, because they are not sober and they do not realize probably the pain they're causing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
It's amazing there.
I can't.
Keep going, no matter what. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
persevere.
living your life.
Yeah, persevere.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to add, or I think that's a great. Maybe honestly, is there if people reach out to you if they need help in the Morrilton area, or how does?
Yes, so we
Okay.
would love that. We do have an office in Morrilton now where I counsel for recovery, or just if it doesn't have to be addiction recovery, it could be heartbreak recovery. You've been heartbroken by others maybe in that cycle, or abuse, that you know you've been broken and abused. We use a program called Doors, and it's digging out old roots, and it helps to clean the heart and mind to soberness, and it helps to heal wounds that you have. Because a lot of times, if we have a lot of wounds, we're operating out of those wounds. We're not operating out of complete healing. So we want to see people's hearts healed and their minds healed and changed. We are at 105 North Division Street in Morrilton. We call our center the Glory Center.
Okay.
And we have meetings free Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. We are there. We have 1 hour meetings. They're free. You would need to be on time because I do shut the door after 6:30, just for privacy and safety. I even give out my cell number. You can text me. I may not can always answer a call, but if it's okay, I can give my cell number. You can text me. If you cannot make a Tuesday meeting, but you need, just text me, I need a prayer, or, you know, can I can't ever make a Tuesday. Do you do other meetings? We accommodate, okay? Because we want to see you get healed. It's that important for you to live your life.
Yeah.
What's your number?
501-306-9914.
Do it again.
501-306-9914.
Okay. Well, Sandy, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I speak a hope to you, to a higher hope than what you've had, and encouragement to you to just keep taking steps forward, go for finding that connection that you need, and the Lord bless you.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure it helped somebody out there. So I'm glad to hear your testimony.
And we'll repost this story here in just a little while. It'll be up on Facebook, and I'll have it on my Facebook, and then you can post it to yours, and it'll be up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sandy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandy.
All right, Robert, any final words?
Forgiveness. I mean, wow. Listen, that goes a long way in our whole world right now, Ashlei.
Yeah, no, that is so true. That is very, very true.
Yeah, forgive. And man,
Yes.
I almost lost it there for a second. So yeah, forgiveness.
Yeah.
So, hey, I appreciate you, Ashlei.
Yeah.
As always. I know I always kind of, but hey, I do. I so appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're just, and you got a wedding coming up.
I do, yeah, in a few weeks, I do, yep.
Yay!
Yes, so
I wish I could be there, but I can't.
It's in Vegas, so
I know it's in Vegas.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that in a few weeks, but but we will be back here again in 2 weeks, though.
Okay.
Talking with a gentleman who has a program in Pine Bluff, a boxing program called Gloves Not Guns. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that next time.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, I'm off to
All
Hot
right.
Springs.
All right. Well, you enjoy.
Bye,
be
guys.
safe, and everyone remember there's victory with love. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.